Welcome to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, where Major League and Minor League athletic trainers share insight into athletic training at the highest level. This week on Inside Athletic Training, we welcome in Brett Walker, the Director of Rehabilitation for the Chicago White Sox. Enjoy the show. Brett, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. We're really happy to have you on for our 16th episode. You're currently in your 9th season with the White Sox, currently serving as the Director of Rehabilitation with the club. We'll get into your current role and your career path in a bit, but first, I'd love to share with our listeners a bit about your background and who you are. So let's take it back from the beginning. Where are you from? Were you into sports growing up? And also how you found your passion for athletic training and physical therapy.
Well, thanks, Sam. Appreciate you having me on. Really excited about getting to talk about this and just touching base with the athletic training community. First off, I'm from the country. I'm from Culbertson, Montana, a town of 900 people. I grew up playing sports, but I think in order to field a team out there, everybody has to play sports. So I thought I was a good athlete back then. And now just with what I've seen over the last 9-10 years, I can see that the amount of effort and work that these guys put in has really surpassed me at a young age. As far as getting into athletic training, I was injured frequently. I think I broke a lot of bones growing up. And I think the one that really stands out to me was I fractured my humerus in a football game when I was about 16 years old. Really, it was one of those things where I was in a cast I ended up fracturing it again the second time while it was in the cast. But so I was in a cast for about 11 weeks. And as you can imagine, I couldn't move very well afterward. I couldn't extend my elbow and I couldn't reach my arm over my head. And I saw a therapist a couple of times and felt like, okay, well, this is interesting. At that same time, my oldest sister was in college to be a physical therapist. At the time, I didn't really want to just be a therapist. I wanted to work with athletes and found that a way to do this might be combining the two, and was pushed fairly heavily from my sister to do that. And that's really how I started. It was something that I wanted to do when I went into school, and I was able to do that fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. A lot of our guests were athletes growing up, and we all learn eventually that we aren't quite the athlete we thought we were. But those injuries ultimately have led to, whether it's time in the training room with an athletic trainer or time with a therapist, that kind of grew that love for the profession, which is super interesting. Getting into your career a bit, you got your start as a volunteer with the Chicago White Sox at rookie ball. We know how much of a grind that can be, and volunteering is often something not many people want to do. Can you talk about that experience and your first year in baseball and how it helped shape your entire career and just those lessons you learned from the early days?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I was working 40 to 50 hours a week in a clinic at the time when I was volunteering. And I truly didn't understand managing a team at the time. I thought I was learning a lot. Come to find out, fast forward, you don't learn everything you need to know. But I was lucky enough to get James, actually our head trainer right now, James Kruk, to let me come into the training room while the Great Falls team was at home. And I would just come help him. And whatever that was, if that was making hot packs or ice baths or ice towels or whatever it was, I'd do it. It really didn't matter to me. Cleaning tables, none of it mattered, just as long as I could be around and learn. And, I'd been out of PT school for, 6 years at the time. And really probably one of the most important things that it taught me was humility. Things work a little bit differently from the PT clinic to the the training room floor, having an understanding of, while I am fairly well educated, I also have to be able to maintain a certain level of humility in order to do the little things, continue to learn.
Yeah, and you've now been, like I said, with the White Sox for almost a decade. Getting into your current role a bit, you're a physical therapist and an athletic trainer, managing rehabilitation for the club. How are the roles of an athletic trainer and a physical therapist so similar but also different? Can you expand on that a bit?
To be honest, as far as from my perspective, I don't see them as wholly different. There are things that we do differently, and things that an athletic trainer can do where I wouldn't necessarily have a physical therapist do. Truly, I think of whatever role it is for your club, that's what you're going to learn. For the past, I don't know, it was probably 6 years where I truly wasn't a physical therapist at the major league level. I was an athletic trainer. Now, I didn't do a whole lot of field coverage, but my job was to manage the training room every day, where now I have a piece of that, but then I also have the rehab side, where I am watching throughout the organization up and down to see how our rehabs are faring and then how we should proceed with them, building plans, and then making sure that those things are followed through on. As far as the difference, I really think that an athletic trainer can do that. I think that athletic trainers they're so moldable, and they're like a jack of all trades. It's actually really fun to watch the guys that we have, and when we bring new people in and watch what this person in particular is good at, and it's different all the time. I do think that in my role right now, like I work with 2 really good athletic trainers. They manage all on-field injuries, and then it is my job after that point to manage, once we get inside, get another evaluation, build plans with the physician and our head athletic trainer.
Yeah, and that's a great explanation of kind of the differences, but how, like you said, everyone's molded together to work as a team. And that's obviously the goal, is to keep the players on the field. And if they're not and they're unable and injuries do occur, then it's your job to get them back. And also working with James and the guys over there must be amazing, because they're so talented, like you mentioned. And one of the things I found interesting over the years about the athletic training staffs and sports medicine staffs is just the growth. Back in the day, you would see maybe an athletic training staff of a head athletic trainer and an assistant, and they were doing everything, all hands on deck. A lot more resources go into the departments these days. Can you talk a bit about what you've seen in terms of the growth of sports medicine and in professional baseball and staff size over the years?
Well, I was lucky enough where I got to work with Herm Schneider. He has been around for a long time. I think he had his 40th year in 2018, I believe, his 40th year in baseball. And watching it evolve, I was brought on as the third athletic trainer or the second assistant, whatever you want to call it. I actually think my original title was manual therapist or manual soft tissue. I'm not sure. But really, watching the evolution from Herm to actually kind of bringing AT into that mix. That's Alan Thomas, and working more as a team. You could see it evolving my first year. And then as we continued, we bring in Mike Reinold. That's when James Kruk came in, and it continues to evolve. Now I think we have a really good team. We've brought in nutritionists. We brought in Jeff Head, to oversee some of the sports science, the strength and conditioning, and nutrition, and kind of put us all together. We have two other athletic trainers aside from me, and then we hired a massage therapist. And then, I think that just that eclectic group is really the fun thing about this, because I don't think that in private practices you get quite as much conversation and just teamwork as you get right in this group of multidisciplinary clinicians.
Yeah, and you mentioned Herm Schneider, who is an absolute legend in Chicago with the White Sox and in Major League Baseball as an athletic trainer. He just done so much through his career and had so much success. I want to, ask you about your experiences with Herm and the stories. I mean, the profession has changed so much, and the things that him and his staff would do back in the day must be so much different than what you guys are doing today. So is it pretty cool to get to work alongside a guy like Herm and just hear stories from back in the day in athletic training?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you could get Herm talking, that was one of the best and most fun on rain delays. You could get him talking about the old days. And that was always fun and interesting. I really think that some of the things when I got here, there were so many things I didn't understand. Herm was very direct and straightforward, and really had been around long enough where he doesn't really have time for not understanding.
Sure.
And it was really fun to like, now as I reflect back on some of those things, I understand some of what he was talking about, where in the moment, I think a lot of times we get caught up with what's going on and we can't see the big picture, where Herm frequently had a big picture in mind, but didn't always share all of those insights. Where I wanted to be given everything all the time, I just didn't understand. And now I think that my perspective has changed. I see a lot more of what Herm was talking about. And so it was really fun to be with him. And once again, in the moment, I wasn't sure, but I think now I really have an appreciation to the things that he pushed me to do and challenged me on.
Sure. And learning from Herm and James now and all your staff members, it obviously is a hugely impactful thing for anyone's career. When you were younger, like you mentioned, and you were just breaking into the game, did you have any specific role models? I know you mentioned your sister pushing you and things in the family, but did you have any specific role models that you looked up to in the field of athletic training specifically?
When I was younger, I would say probably not. But as I got going into things, there are two people that really stand out in my mind that really challenged me. And one was Lonnie Soloff. And I don't even know if I've told Lonnie this, but he's probably the reason that I continued trying to work in baseball. And it was through an interview process where I didn't get a job. I was interviewing for the Indians at the time, Guardians now. Lonnie personally called me and told me that I didn't get the job. And that had such a profound impact on me on how you treat people, that was something that, I wanted to continue to work toward, because there are people out there, and I figured that there are just people out there in baseball that treat others like this. And that's what I want to do. So he's one. And then as I was interning, I interned with the Diamondbacks. And that was my first run-in with Ken Crenshaw. And while Ken and I didn't necessarily treat the same way, I walked out of that internship and was scratching my head and basically re-examined myself for the next 6 months, because what I felt I knew, I left needing to find out a lot more. At that time, I think I'd been a therapist for about 8 years, and I I was just finishing up my athletic training degree, and Ken agreed to take me on. And it was one of those things where I thought I had things figured out, and he really let me know that there's a lot more to this game than what you see from the outside.
It's really interesting you mentioned sort of a failure or not getting a position that had such a big impact on you and your career, and also just understanding what you don't know. And many of us who know Lonnie Soloff and Ken Crenshaw, two absolute legends in athletic training, know what great people and mentors they are for so many athletic trainers in the game today. If you take a look at their, call it family tree of athletic trainers who worked under them, you'll see so many people who have had awesome success after learning from them. So no surprise there. Now that the roles have reversed, you're extremely well established in the game of baseball as an athletic trainer and physical therapist. What advice would you give to students, the old Brett, looking to get into athletic training and professional baseball, whether that's a skill or personality trait or anything like that?
Honestly, like for me, what do I look for? I'm looking for people who work hard. I don't care about the degree anymore. I think once upon a time I wanted to see X, Y, and Z, and that helps me understand who you are. Anymore, I want to see a hard worker. I want to see a guy that shows up every day and is ready to put in the time. And I was thinking about this question. And I thought about 3 books that really, really kind of stood out in my mind. I don't know if they were perfect right at the time, but they eventually got there. Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday was one that really pushed me to be a little bit more humble. I think Grit by Angela Duckworth is another one that kind of just shows like, hey, just keep working, work hard, and show up, and you'll get through it. And then Harold Dweck wrote a book called Mindset that really kind of highlights, the people that I'm looking for. Having a moldable mindset, not a fixed mindset, is something that's really important to me.
That's great advice, and also some awesome books for people coming up who could, even in any profession, that want to kind of learn and grow their skills and discover who they are and what type of worker they are. That's great advice there. Speaking of advice for younger people, you were pretty young when you broke into the big leagues, much younger than a lot of people who get that chance. Outside of hard work, and obviously you're extremely dedicated and skilled, what do you credit for getting an opportunity so early in the big leagues? Some people wait decades and, 20, 30 years to get a shot. So what made things different for you when you broke in pretty early?
Short answer is luck. But other things, like every time I do something, every time I go to a class, I have a specific intent. When I take a job, I have a specific intent. Every single thing. And I learned this probably 4 years out of school. I was working with a physician who talked to me about this over and over and over again. And being intentful in the things that we do. I chose the White Sox position because of the people who were in the organization. And I don't think I ever told Herm this, but I chose the White Sox because I wanted to learn from Herm. Herm's record with injury was phenomenal for years. And you go back through and look at IL dates and how he was the best over the last, 20 years. And so how do you get to be the best? You learn from the best. And so that was my intentful choice of the White Sox. Going to conferences, having an intention every day. Hey, I want to talk to Ken Crenshaw. Hey, I want to talk to Lonnie Soloff about X, Y, and Z. And even Mike Reinold, who's one of who I work with now. He's one that probably 10 years ago, I was going to conferences just because he was there and just to be able to pick his brain and talk about baseball. So being intentful and then also sometimes just being lucky.
Sure. We all catch our breaks here and there, and that's a huge piece of it. But, you obviously put yourself in position with that intent to make things happen when you get the chance. So very impressive there. You talked about the White Sox as an organization and your desire to be around Herm, the staff there, and just the White Sox as a club. It's a huge market team with a ton of history, massive sports city, huge media market. Working in Chicago, talk a bit about the extra pressure you might feel just being in that type of environment, and how that makes this job different from many others across the league.
I think the pressure is great. I think it is everywhere. I've never really been anywhere else. I know that when we were kind of in that rebuilding stage, we didn't have very much pressure. And then as we started getting into more of a win now, that pressure has increased. That also coincided with my timing as getting more involved and my job actually having more responsibility. So there are definitely some sleepless nights. But I think that across the board, I truly don't think it matters where you are or who you are. The athletic trainers, the physical therapists, the performance staff as a whole all care, and they care so deeply that they put it on their own shoulders. When there's an injury, they're feeling it. They feel it every single day, and it doesn't matter major market or not. It's a challenging thing for all of us.
Sure. And there's obviously only, 30 or so teams in Major League Baseball. So every job is incredibly important across the league. And speaking of importance, you spent 2018 with the White Sox, obviously, and worked with Herm Schneider, and you guys were named the Major League Baseball Athletic Training Staff of the Year, a super important award voted on by your peers at PBATS. Can you talk about that year, what made it special, and also how you guys became so deserving of the award in 2018?
Well, as you know, that was Herm's last year, but I actually don't think that had any impact whatsoever on that award, because no one knew it was going to be his last year. But I think that was we had one incident, and it was a big incident for baseball, for athletic training, for our medical field. It was a tough night. I remember we were playing the Astros. I remember that. I don't remember when. I just remember it was the Astros. Mm-hmm. And we had a pitcher that pitched in the game. It was a normal day. He pitched in the game and came out and started complaining about, like, God, I really have a headache. This is unbearable. And then he vomited, and it appeared that he seized at the time. It was, we're on the bench. The game doesn't stop, which was amazing to me. And we end up getting, activating EMS, and we had him at the hospital, and I believe it was 27 minutes. That player ended up having a brain aneurysm, and it was really touch and go for the next week, because the survival rates of a brain aneurysm are not good. And to be honest, I think that the fact that he had it where he had it, and all the pieces working in place, that's from EMS to even our clubhouse staff to our players who were helping, our physicians, our rush physicians were on point, and we had him in the hospital prepared for what was to come in 27 minutes, which is a pretty impactful thing, to say the least.
Yeah, and I know that was such an important moment for baseball, like you said, and just goes to show how valuable the profession of athletic training and sports medicine is. And, there's more to more to what you guys do than taking care of players playing a game. You're really, doing some powerful work, and kudos to everybody that was involved in that. Speaking about everyone who was involved in that, some maybe moved on, some maybe currently still with you. You're surrounded every day with an amazing staff in Chicago. It wouldn't be fair to you without giving you some time to recognize those assistants, the organizational staff, and people like James who you get to work with every day. So feel free to share, and recognize those people you get to call colleagues every day.
Well, I'm extremely lucky. I've gotten to be with so many people I get to learn from every day. James Crook, our head trainer, I worked with him for 4 years in rookie ball. He was the one that invited me in the first time. And I'm very appreciative for that. He does an amazing job, and keeps us all together and really leads our team, our whole performance team as we continue to move forward and get better at the things that we do. Josh Fallon manages everything in the training room so that I get to think about what the rehabs are doing on a daily basis. And it's been really nice to have a guy who managed a team for 20 years in the minor leagues be able to come up and manage all the things in the training room so that we can just do the work, or I can do some work. And then our massage therapist, Jess Lebonsky, does a great job managing some of the soft tissue stuff we see on a daily basis. We hired a sports scientist this year, Todd Kubaki, who's been a really nice addition to our team. And then our strength staff, Goldie Simmons and Ibrahim Rivera. I can't say enough about their help. They have pushed me in my strength and conditioning education, so that we can get these guys back quicker and hopefully safer. Stepping back, the guys that I'd really highlight, just, of course, the people that I work with are amazing, top to bottom, but a couple who really stand out in my mind. Scott Johnson, we talked about earlier about there are people who've spent years, decades of their life trying to get to the big leagues. Scott Johnson is a guy that, he's about 40 years in minor league baseball or around there. And he has been so important to my development. We call him Fargo. He's from North Dakota, actually lives close to where I went to school. And so it's one of those guys that really get you through. And these are the people that are really holding you up. Scott Johnson, Scott Takau, another one who's been here for years, kind of been grinding it out in the minor leagues. And I'm just so thankful for those guys to hold us up and put us in a place to get better and to improve.
Yeah. Awesome staff there in Chicago. And, starting from Herm Schneider back in the day to you and James now and everybody there, you guys are really doing awesome work. So kudos to everybody there on the staff with the White Sox. Brett, we really appreciate all the insight and awesome stories from you during the show today. To wrap up today's episode, we're going to finish with a quick Q&A segment called Extra Bases. So I'm going to ask you 4 quick questions and give you the opportunity to share some insight into some of your favorite things about athletic training in baseball. So we'll start off at first base. Outside of the White Sox and your home athletic training room, what is your favorite training room to work in the big leagues?
Atlanta did it. Their visiting clubhouse is amazing. It's a new stadium. They have their rooms set up really nice, very similar to what a home training room would look like.
Yeah, it's funny. Someone's going to have to talk to George and his staff down there and let them know that more than half of our guests have said that Atlanta is the best spot to work in. So whatever he did in engineering that or becoming an architect for a short period of time, kudos to George and the folks down in Atlanta for that. Moving on to second base here. What is your favorite Major League Baseball stadium to watch a game from the dugout? I
think we talk about this stuff a lot. Mine is Baltimore. I love Baltimore. it has the blend of the old and new. Like that building in the back is just phenomenal. I don't remember what the building is called, but that's probably my favorite stadium to visit.
Yeah, that building, I remember going back, playing Ken Griffey Jr. baseball or something, hitting balls off that building in video games growing up. So that was always a cool one. Moving on to third base, you are lucky enough to call Chicago home during the season. Amazing city. A lot of our guests have mentioned that it's their favorite to visit on the road. What's your favorite city to visit on the road, whether that's for food or entertainment, anything of that nature? Where do you like to go most?
I'd say Boston. I really like to go to Boston. There's so much history there. And I'm talking outside of the field. I know the field, there's a lot of history too, but I usually take my family. So I take my wife and kids to Boston, and we've done the duck boat tours. You name it, we've probably done it there in Boston. I think last year we went up to Salem and did a tour up there. And next to the stadium, they have a garden where people can pay for a plot of land if you live within the city limits. And I'm not sure what that garden's called, but walking through that and talking to people who have their little outdoor space is so fun.
Yeah, that's such a meaningful city, from all the movies that have filmed there and just the history. It's really an amazing place. Moving on to home plate, the last question for today. We like to ask people who have been in the league for a long time to share a story about the big league, welcome to the big leagues moment. So at some point during the first year or so in your career, did you have a moment that it hit you where, I'm in the big leagues, this is my big league moment?
The first one, of course, was just being announced that first day. I think that when I say I got called up because the year that they brought me up to Chicago, I got a phone call from Buddy Bell, and Buddy said, "We need you in Chicago in 5 days. Are you able to do that?" My youngest, my son, was a month old at that time.
Wow.
And I was expecting to be in Arizona for the next 20 years. That was my expectation, just to be the rehab guy. And things changed fairly quickly. And so when we got to Chicago, I was, and they introduced me. That was, I was so nervous to run out to that line. I'd never done anything like that before. And I would say that was one of the moments, my first year that will stand out to me. Another one, just for fun, was when the players they always gave me a hard time. And so we had our starting pitching staff probably gave me the hardest time as I got here. And I had like an iPhone 2 because I'm cheap. And I had my old beater computer probably from college, and these guys made fun of me ruthlessly for about 5 months. And with about a month left in the season, Chris Sale asks me, "Hey, do you get good service in here?" And, kind of hemming and hawing about like my service. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's really good." He said, "What carrier do you use?" And I said, "Oh, Verizon." He's like, "Oh, okay. I'll maybe check that out." And he walks in the next day and drops a brand new, I think it was like the 6 Plus, and Beats headphones and Bose headphones. And then John Danks walks in and drops off the MacBook Pro. And I was just like, I can't accept this, and just relax.
Yeah, that's great. I know we have heard so many stories from athletic trainers who have been given suits for opening day or plane rides to technology and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see, you know, how much of a family the organizations are, even between the players, managers, coaches, and the athletic trainers. It's a really, really awesome and some cool moments there. Well, Brett, thank you so much for joining the show. We really appreciate your time and your dedication to the profession of athletic training. And we wish you and your staff in Chicago nothing but the best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Sam.
And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening to Inside Athletic Training, a podcast from the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society, a show for athletic training students, educators, and professionals who want to learn more about life as an athletic trainer in major and minor league baseball. If you've enjoyed the show, head over to pbats.com to gain access to other free resources. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thanks again for listening.